Good afternoon and welcome back to Whimsical Farm. Today is the first day of June and we are going out into the garden after lots and lots of rain. So let's have a look. If you'll remember from last time, we had a rain gauge that we built, and let's have a look. Sure enough, we did get the rain. 1.5 inches looks like. Very simple little rain gauge. I'm going to swap this over to my wife, and we're going to take a look at several things today in the garden. We'll start off with the onions. You'll notice the onions are no longer in the ground. These onions have been pulled up. I want to talk about these. If you'll notice at a glance, they've also been trimmed. So here's what we ran into. Our onions began to lay over, and they were trying to say that they were finished, but it was mostly from the wind. And you're really supposed to trim an onion off. So here's the new rules that I found out. When an onion is starting to reach maturity and it gets really tall, still good and healthy, cut him off and leave about 7 inches of stem sticking up, and that'll give him a little bit longer to run with it straight up and down. These onions that you're seeing here are not huge, but they were grown from sets. And sets are a quick way to plant onions and grow them. We've got two different ways that we went about it. We've got these from sets, so harvested them, and they're just laid out to dry right now. Hopefully it'll stop raining and they'll dry up a little bit. I'll put them in a buggy and take them in the house, let the air conditioner probably finish them off. If you would, honey, go ahead and let's shine over there and look at your bed. You'll see that I trimmed some of her larger onions. I trimmed them a little bit too short, but they're still in the battle. And her onions are a little different rig altogether. They are set up from seed. These were planted from seed, and her goal on these was to have an onion that would last a little bit longer, that you could put on a string like Grandma used to do, hang on the front porch in the sun, and let it really dry out good. You'll see that the chips have also still done a good job. So let's talk about buying onions from seed. The nice thing about this, you can look over your catalogs during the winter time and really figure out what you want. You got 3 big advantages to buying your onions from seed. Number one, you get much more variety than stopping in at a box store and they've only got 2 or 3 different kinds. So much more variety. You will get more size, generally speaking, because with sets, you're really kind of fooling the onion. You're pulling him out of an onion state where he was growing, and all of a sudden you got him dormant, tied up with strings, and then all that back and forth. So he's not really going to make a full size onion. So you get more variety, you get more size, and they store longer dry. So that's what she's attempting to do. So if you would, let's walk over there and look at those tomatoes. We're going to switch gears here a little bit to tomatoes. You'll notice that we have a new style cup. I've got some solo cups here. Let me see if I can find some of them. That's a new solo cup they've just come out with, and it's a square body, gives it a lot more stiffness than their old round style. You still need to poke a couple of holes. But I want to just talk about these real quick. These plants are for sale. We've got them in a fiberglass tray, which gives you some water control. If you just put them up on a dry bench, you really got to keep a close eye to be able to keep them watered, because they'll get dry in a hurry. So this gives you a couple of days of grace period with that water. So this time of year, it's always a problem with tomatoes. I want to do an overall of the garden, but we'll do the tomatoes first and talk about them a little bit. First thing I want to look at, you notice this, my wife uses this product, Alaska Fish Fertilizer. This is a very good product to fertilize your tomato plants with, and it won't burn them. It's just you can make it up in a pump-up sprayer and foliar feed them, or you can make it up in just a regular pour bucket and pour some at the base of the tomato. But you can follow the instructions on this. You can feed this real regular. You could feed it once a week or even sooner, and it's not going to hurt anything. Another thing that we have to deal with in the garden is disease. And we'll talk about some diseases today. And here are two of the products that we use. These are both considered to be organic. They will meet all the requirements of organic garden. This is a copper fungicide, basically just made out of copper. And this is a Serenade product. They've got the instructions usually in a little booklet on them, but very simple to use. Pump up sprayer, tablespoon, gallon of water, and just foliar feed, spray your plants with it. The tomato plants, I usually spray the whole tomato plant, including these babies, and then I'll spray a little bit right at the stem where the plant's coming up out of the ground, and that'll kind of treat the roots. Now, we want to talk about some problems with the tomato plants, though. Let's go ahead and walk over. We're going to do a round and round here in a little while, but let's look at tomatoes first. If you would just notice also we got some new labels. I got me a little wood burning kit and made the labels a little bit bigger than this, but take a look at these and you'll see real quick that these plants, we have basically cut from this bottom wire off all the leaves. There may be a few hanging down, but the main limbs, like that one's hanging down a little bit. We can get rid of him out of the picture. But you can see here, if you look down, I've got pretty much all of the main stem. Here's a good example. If you can kind of just move the camera in right there. I have cut all these lower limbs off. Now this is really important to do. All the lower limbs that are below this wire, and the purpose of that is to get good airflow. The Chinese have a saying, they call it, you'll hear them say feng shui. Feng shui. I've heard that my whole life. You see it a lot with furniture and trying to make things where you can flow real easy when you walk through a house. Oh, this has got good feng shui. Feng shui comes from two words that we use, which is fen is wind and shui is water. So sure enough, this is really something where feng shui counts. And I'll tell you what, the Asian people, they are fantastic when it comes to gardening. So they will really understand what I'm talking about here, but we need to understand this too. Feng shui, we're talking about the two things, wind and water. We need wind to go through here and have that airflow, and the water, we're trying to harmonize with it too. We want the water to go down into here from our watering system or from the rain. But see, as the wind blows, see these leaves, they're in movement, and the sun comes out. We want all this stuff on the surface to be dry. We want the stem to stay dry. We want all these leaves to dry off good, and that will really go a long ways in protecting against fungus. Now, that being said, we've got that part done. We've got it cut, we've got it trimmed, we've got the lower limbs, they're sitting up here. They're kind of protected. They don't have any, you know, they're not just all stopped up with a bunch of problems. They got good airflow, good wind flow, good humidity control. There's Lemon Boy. I like that tag, Lemon Boy. Here's Mr. Carbon. But now here's the rough part with tomatoes. There are two diseases that you may have to deal with in your garden. One is verticillium, and the second one is fusarium. Verticillium and fusarium. Those are two funguses. Now this is a sad part. There's no way to tell you this without just telling you the truth. These are based on a fungus, and that fungus is in that soil. Once that fungus is in there, and by the way, that fungus is in all soils, but it's in some more than others, and there's 6 different kinds of them. Some of them are just common, and they work with the soil, and they do all kinds of microorganism things. But some of those, once they get sucked up into the plant, that fungus starts to come up. It is a real problem. And shine right here if you would. I want to talk about this for a minute. When you study those two funguses, you might think, well, I need a special treatment. I'll just spray this or that on there and that'll be the end of it. Unfortunately, these funguses that I just mentioned are just like parvo for a dog. There is no cure for it. Once that particular type, the verticillum and the Fusarium wilts. They're both a type of wilt. They're both made from a fungus. And that fungus, once it gets up in the plant, the first thing that it does is it gets in the stem, and it's systemic. It will go up into the plant farther, but in the stem, it will begin to damage it. And the damage results in the lack of the plant's ability to pick up water and to pick up nutrients. It's almost exactly the same thing as parvo in a dog. I know it may seem off topic, but when a dog gets parvo, it messes with his interior of his gut. And the little fibers in his gut that normally pick up moisture, water, and his food, his nutrients, it wipes those out. And he starts showing blood, start having problems. His guts can start to turn brown on the inside. The exact same thing holds true for your tomato. If it gets either one of these wilts, it goes up into the stem, the leaves will begin to turn yellow. One of these happens more in the spring. Let's see, the verticillum is cause a uniform yellowing, and it's normally something you see when it's a little bit cooler, and the other one's when it's hotter, but they both do the same thing. They cause the plant to begin to turn yellow. This doesn't have it. This just got a little curl from heat and cool and heat and cool. It's got a little stress. But once it gets that disease, the plant may survive it, but you're not going to get your normal production. Your production is going to be very low. The plant will get stunned, and the best way to deal with it is get that plant out of there. And I'm going to be a little bit humorous here, but it needs to go in a 55-gallon drum with a raging fire and just burn that thing to a crisp. Don't take any chances. If you've got a plant that's got either one of those that's a wilting type fungus, you need to wipe it out. Get it, put it in a trash bag, have the trash man haul it off your property. Don't give it to your rabbits to eat. Please don't put it in your compost pile, because that fungus will stay for 10, 15, 20 years. These buckets, I'm a little bit concerned with them because you are using the same soil year after year. So now you may ask, okay, that sounds like a bunch of bad news. Now, what's the good news? The good news is that most of your modern plants today, the engineers have worked carefully to try to get around that by providing plants that are resistant to disease. So if you see a plant and it says V and an F and an N, those two names I just told you, the V is the verticillium. I may not be pronounced that exactly right for you scientific types. Verticillium, and the fusarium wilts. That's your V and your F, and usually an N is a root knot nematodes. But if you get the right kind of plants, modern plants, if you're in a high humidity area, you got real problems with your soil and you just can't seem to get rid of it, switch plants. Get you a more dependable plant that can handle the disease. So we do the sprays, we talked about that. We try to prevent it from ever starting if you can. We do the airflow thing. We only water from the bottom. Like I told you before, you don't want to come out with a big water hose, especially on a hot day, and start spraying your plants. You just don't want to do that. Now, let's talk about another thing. Let's step over here and look at this plant for a second. I want to talk a little bit about an amplifier, something that you can do to this plant. Boy, that thing is really starting to look good. We'll say it made it to stage one. Stage one is where it starts to lean on the frame here, and you'll see it's already got a nice bloom there. It's got more than one bloom. There's a bloom. Sometimes you can rub these blooms and it will make them where they have more tomatoes. Nothing wrong with that. Take a brush or something. But here's 3 things that you can do to amplify your tomato plant. Number 1, you can take a regular aspirin, 325 milligram regular white aspirin without any coating, and take the aspirin and put it right here at the stem, poke it down in the soil, cover it up, and water it in good. And what that does is the aspirin tells the plant that it's under attack. And the plant will automatically go into defense mode, and it will try to defend against all kinds of problems. It will actually make the skin of the leaves and the stems harder. It'll make them have a higher density and harder and tougher against disease. So just a simple aspirin. People have used it for years. Grandma, grandpa knew about it, and I'm just now learning a little bit more about it. I've read about it, but we've done that. So we added an aspirin. That's one amplifier. Another one is Epsom salt. Now, if you go on YouTube Shine up here for just a second. If you go on YouTube, you will see, it's a funny thing to me. Any subject just about known to man, you can go on YouTube and one crew is going to tell you, boy, you need this. And the other crew will say, whatever you do, don't do this. So here's what I learned about Epsom salt. Epsom salt is not your table salt, obviously. It's magnesium and it's got sulfate. It's the sulfur and the magnesium. It's a salt type crystal. But all you need to do is take 1 tablespoon of this, sprinkle it around your tomato plant. Make sure you don't put it right on the plant. Just sprinkle it around, and when it rains or your sprinkler system waters it, it'll dissolve. Your plant will pick up the magnesium that it needs. In the ground, you may never be low on magnesium, but in a container like this where you're watering it all the time, it's not unusual for your nutrients to just wash out, and you got to keep putting them back in. You've got 3 major macronutrients, big ones: the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potash. So that's your 3 big ones. Your next 3 secondary macros is your calcium and your magnesium and your sulfur. Those are 3 other that you got to keep up with. So here is the last one that we'll do. We're going to go ahead and do this right here. Just, if you would, just shine right there. Or you know what, come on over. Come on over. This one is another one that you can do, and that, you've probably seen this before. People, a lot of people used to just take eggshells like this and they would stick them in the soil and say, boy, my plant's going to get that calcium. It will. It'll take about 3 years before you get the calcium. So I don't have 3 years to wait. I can't give my tomorrows away. So what we do, we're going to do a little chemistry experiment here. Take you some vinegar. This is white vinegar. It's a little easier to work with, but this is what I had handy. It's apple cider vinegar, very, very strong smelling. And you take your shells. You can run them in a blender, but just for the sake of time and make this a little easier, I'm just going to crunch them up in my hands. I'm going to get them as small as I can with my hands. And say, oh gosh, did you sterilize those? Have they been baked? Have they been washed 10 times? No, none of that. Our chickens, they just lay sterile eggs, so that's what we got. We got sterile eggs. They might have a little bit of yolk in them, but our tomato plants they're not allergic to eggs. They like eggs, just fine. So you bust that shell up as far as you can, get it really small, and you drop it right in that vinegar. I'm gonna keep on going. We got a few more to do here. For the sake of time, I'm gonna try to do a little bit faster. Can you see that? See how fine I'm getting them? Now, if you got a really strong grip, you're like a super mechanical guy. Maybe you're one of those T1000 models. You can take that down to powder. And a little bit more. Don't worry if you spill eggshells in the garden. Nobody's gonna get sued. No one's gonna cry. So there's the vinegar. And it's in with the eggshells. And the clear works a little bit better to see that, but if you'll look close, you'll see that already starting to bubble. Something is beginning to happen. So it looks nasty. I wouldn't drink it. Well, it's not for consumption. What's happening is the vinegar is acidic, very low pH. The shells are on the other end of the spectrum. They're a little bit more alkaline. The 2 strike each other. You'll see some of them are falling out. See, some of them are dying. They're scared, so they fall out. But they'll resurrect here in a minute, come back to life. And what happens is it begins to give off calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate. That's what we want. So the eggshells, they're scared. They're giving up their calcium carbonate, and you let this set for about 30 days. No, not really. Let it set for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you can pour that in water, put that in your water jug, and all that nice calcium will be broken down in the water, and when you pour it around your plant, the plant can suck it up. Very, very important that it gets that calcium. All right. So we got our 3 amplifiers. We got our aspirin, we got our Epsom salt, and we got our eggshell vinegar. Now, some people might look at that and go, oh my gosh, that vinegar, that's gonna burn my tomato plant up. It won't, because the eggshells are beginning to neutralize that. You don't have to put water. Don't put water in it, because you'll make your vinegar get weak. That obviously needs more vinegar. But you get the point, and look, I'll hold it real still. Look at the bubbles. That bubble, that is carbon dioxide. We're making the earth greener. All right, let's go to the next item on the list. All right, we're going to talk about tomato plants again. I guess we're doing tomatoes today. Another thing we got to talk about on the tomato plant, and that's a big one, is aphids. And you can find a lot of information on this, but this is what I have found that works good with the aphids. First off, you got to keep your eye tuned for aphids. Look for them. And all you do is you look for leaves. If you see a leaf curled, if the leaf begins to curl down and close, and the next day it opens back up, you're okay. That just means it got dry, and then it got hot, and then you water it, and then it goes back to normal. But if one keeps curling up, see, some of these are curled, but that's not an aphid. That's heat stress. It's been almost 100 degrees here a couple of days ago, 90-something degrees. But if you see a leaf and it begins to curl in and shut like a hand, open that thing up real gentle and look, and you're probably going to have aphids. So that's the first thing you look for. Look for a curl. See, this one's got a little bit of a curl, so turn it over. Let's have a look. See what's going on here. And do we have any? Nope, no aphids. So that's one thing. The second thing that you check for is you look for little black ants. Now, you may have a different color ant in your neighborhood, but here we've got little sugar ants, little black ants. And what happens is those aphids are like little cows to them. The ants will help the aphids get onto the plant, and they'll make little white pieces, look like a little piece of cotton when they lose their skin, and they begin to swell up. They drop little droplets of sugar, and those ants are going to show up like crazy. So if you walk out to your tomato plant, look right here on this stem. Zoom in as close as you can right here. If you look on this stem right here and you see that thing, it looks like a little city, and the ants are traveling up and down that thing like a highway, little black ants, you've got aphids. Guaranteed you got aphids. So there may be a few there, but we're not covered up with them. So that's what you look out for. Now, how do you get rid of the aphids? That's the next question. It's very easy. You take your water hose, set your nozzle. You should have in the garden a nozzle that has different spray patterns. Put it on really fine and set your pressure up and go underneath the plant and just begin to spray. Aphids are real wimpy little, they're just like little, made out of jelly or something. They're real soft. They're real soft. But once that water hits them and knocks them down, they just can't get back up on the tomato plant. They'll fall down, then they hit your chips and they dry in the sunshine, and that's the end of them. So you go through your plants, give them a quick spray down, and then double check them. You might even take a mirror and lay a mirror and look underneath so you don't have to stick your head underneath every leaf, and look and make sure they're gone. If you have a infestation, you can't seem to get rid of them, you can just get some regular Dawn detergent. Don't get the kind that says antibacterial, because you don't want to play in the bacterial world. Just regular Dawn, put you a tablespoon of that in a gallon of water, small pump-up sprayer, just a hand sprayer, and go in and soap all your plants down on the bottom side. Make sure you're hitting the aphids. You can let it sit for a while, and if the soap makes you nervous, go back out with your high pressure spray and spray them again, and that'll finish them off. So keep an eye on that though. They may come back. This cool weather and rainy weather in the evening, that's when they like to come out and have a party underneath your leaves. They'll begin to suck all the juice out of your leaf, and the next thing you know, your plant will be missing the juice, and they will introduce some bacteria, some problems to it. So on the plants now, let's talk a little bit about your yellow. If you get some yellow leaves on the bottom, sometimes it's not a serious disease, but it's best to go ahead and cut those off. You notice I'm not doing a whole lot of cutting out here because it's rained. That's a rule of thumb too. Rules of engagement in war, you're warring against fungus and disease. If that plant's soaking wet, don't handle it. Don't go in there with cutters. Your cutters need to be sterilized. You can either use a little bit of spray bleach and water blended, 10-to-1 is enough, or a little bit of alcohol, but always keep your cutters clean, because if you cut one plant and it's got a bad disease, and then you just go through there and sit on a bucket and you start working all your plants, you're going to spread that disease through every one of your plants. So anytime you cut one that's got some yellow leaves, just wipe it down, at least rinse it off with water. But soap and the bleach is going to be better off for you. Okay, so that takes care of that. let's take a look at, let's do an overall, if you would. Let me borrow that camera for a minute. Okay. We're going to back up to the beginning of the garden and do an overall view. I like to do a walkthrough and show you progress. This will be our progress report. And then I want to show you a problem while we're up here doing progress. Notice that we have a grapevine that is having problems. Now, notice his leaves here. All the leaves have wimped out just like it's super hot outside. Well, it's not hot. It's about 70 degrees and rainy right now. And you'll notice that all his leaves are just dying. And the one right up above him, which is a totally different vine, is not dying. So if you know what this problem is, please get into the comment section and let us know what you found. I don't think it's something terrible that's going to wipe out all of our grapes. That would make me cry my eyeballs out. But you can see the grapes. The progress on them is pretty incredible. There are a lot of grapes. So if you would, hand me the cutters, please. I want to show what we did on this. On the grapes, it's not quite as critical. I'm going to go ahead and make a few cuts. I want you to see this, and then we'll finish with our walkthrough. I have made a few cuts, but we want to do a few more. This will be a good place. Let me go ahead and give you the camera. Thank you, dear. And if you would, let's see, let's go on here on this side where it's a little bit easier to get to. Right here. What you want to do with these grapes when they begin to put their runners out, these runners, you want to let them get basically a cubit. You need to have it basically the length of your arm, but that thing will just go and go and go like there's no tomorrow. That'll get 1.5 feet, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet long. But if you do this right here and just cut just the tip of it off, that stops him. He'll still have his arms, his little grabbers trying to grab stuff, but that stops that growth. And you'll have enough, what we call solar panels, the leaves are solar panels. You'll have enough of that. You don't want to cut them when they're too short, but any of them that are really long, like here's another one. This is a full from the main stem, the main body of the vine to here. He's almost 18, so we'll give him a little cut right there. And that's all it takes. It's not a big surgery, it's just cutting the tips off. And that will kind of stop that, because you don't want to just grow. Here's the deal, if you don't do this, you'll grow a pile of leaves. So it's kind of like if you had 5,000 peaches on a tree, you don't feel like you should have to pull any of them off, but they're not going to be very good. Same thing here, you don't want to grow a whole bunch of leaves. And that's the simple thing. We've already done this quite a bit, so thank you. We've done this quite a bit, and we just want to keep up with it so that they don't get overgrown on us. So, alrighty, go this way. All right. So let's start from right here. We usually do a overview, and I want to show you my wife's progress. I give her the credit because she's done a lot of this work on these beds, and she's got it really looking beautiful. We have a few things that we want to talk about that are not quite right. But the first thing you'll notice is the far right-hand bed. She's got some nice bush beans there. Some of the holes didn't fill in, but she had so many it doesn't even matter. And that will be completely covered. I'll still put the chips around it. You notice bed 2, she's got the onions in that, lots of wood chips to keep the weeds at bay. And this bed closest to us here, the one with the orange stick in it, that one is watermelon, and it is almost 100%. You can see she's got a pattern going there, and there's one little guy right there. He hadn't got big yet. She put extra seeds, so almost all these have 2 or 3, but they're doing good. And roses, of course, we'll have a look at them. These are just absolutely gorgeous. These are the corals. I mention them, I guess, every time. Can't turn away from them. And the old bird bath. This is a good thing to have in the garden, because guess what? Some people say, I don't want to bring birds in my garden, but you need them. If you don't have it full of water, they will peck on your tomatoes and drink a little juice. So this bed right here is one that's going to be okra. And what we decided, we've still got some that's trying to pop up. We've got some okra that we planted by soaking the okra for 6 hours and then wrapping it in wet paper towel and putting it in a Ziploc bag. So once that goes, we'll put them in small planters and we're going to do some transplant. This is another bed that didn't quite make it, but I'm kind of glad because this bed has got squash. And squash in Arkansas is always problematic with squash bugs. So as these plants get chewed up a little bit with squash bugs, we will plug some more in on the other holes. And my wife's corn, golly, she's doing so good with that. She's got little corn. She's got it offset properly. She's got some that'll harvest out first, and then this will come in behind it. And then sunflowers. I wish every plant, she made mention of this, I wish every plant in the garden grew as good as sunflowers do, because they seem to need nothing. They just go and go. Tomatoes, we've already looked at them. I will mention one more thing with these as we walk around. I gotta show you the peppers. Peppers are doing fantastic. She's got them thick, but look how many blooms are on those peppers. They are really going good. Got some bush beans there filling in. The asparagus is still growing big. It's well over 6 feet tall over my head now. And roses over here have been trimmed. Grapes are filling in. These need to be trimmed back. We'll do that tomorrow. Here's what I was going to show you about these tomato buckets. An indicator you can use if you got some onions that grew in there and they're all real small, that lets you know you're a little low on your nitrogen. You need to bump your nitrogen up. Let's check our fishes. Let's see if the little dog, oh, a yellow one. He's got, oh boy, that thing is a snapper. Here, easy now. Here, don't chew off too much. I'll give you a little bitty bite. Here, right here. Just a little bite. Where's your little friend? I don't see your friend in there. Where's him at? I know he's in there. I don't know. Come on. Gotta have some YouTube time here, buddy. He may be sleeping. I think he's sleeping in today. It's kind of cloudy. He likes to come out when it's real sunny. He's sleeping in. This is a special bed here. This is what we call our Bermuda bed. So we'll cut that out and lay that out and plant it somewhere. These peppers are doing okay. They've had a few little problems with some of the lower leaves, and she's working on them, getting them tuned up. Yellow roses still doing good, getting ready to rebloom, and these are beautiful. So look at the grapes. The grapes have completely covered the whole face of the arbor, and they're doing great. Let's have a look over here. We'll go out to the back side of the garden. Creeping Jenny is still filling in. My wife's got her strawberries. We'll make the loop this way today. We'll start off with the beans. Look at this black plastic. Now you remember last time, this was really just ugly, plain old black plastic, and she was just solarizing the heck out of the dirt. But now look at that. That is beans, or what is that? Purple hull peas. So purple hull peas, she's got them going. Her tomatoes are doing good. They're getting big. We're going to look at them up close and personal here in a second. Our strawberries are doing fantastic. I want you to see some of the details of some of these strawberries. She's got our strawberries. Some of these tomato plants. This is a black beauty. Look at that black beauty. Isn't that something? There's one up here. I'll try to pull stuff out of the way. There's a black beauty tomato. And let's see what we got here. This plant's really getting big. This is the Napa Chardonnay that they said wouldn't even grow, and look at it. It's just getting huge, huge plant. It's already up to almost stage 2. Then we got a bunch of cherry tomatoes. Look at that. She's got cherry tomatoes. They're ready to eat. They're sitting out here. Nobody's eating them. I got to work on that one right there. Oh, that one's gone. Now, she's been working along the side. Look at this bed here. This is just, she used black plastic, super good soil. And what do you got planted in there, baby?
Everything that climbs.
Everything that climbs. So we've got some
loofah, runner beans.
Runner beans, loofah sponges. cucumbers, and this bed goes all along the side here. Look at that thing. And it wraps all, look at the beans over there, boy, it's really coming on. That'll be covered. Probably by the next time you look at this, those will be up. I'd say a week, those will probably be a week or two, they'll be up. And this bed is solarizing and getting ready for fall crop. She's gonna do something big in there, but look at these. These are beautiful. What are these here, honey?
Chinese noodle beans.
Chinese noodle beans. You have to know how to do kung fu to eat these, but they are, have chopsticks maybe, but those are good looking plants. Look at those plants.
Those are the loofah.
Okay, those are loofahs. Okay. They look nice though. Everything back here is growing. You can tell that wood chips, I'm telling you, them things right there, they really keep that. Look at how moist they keep that. They really keep it nice and moist. I'm covering up her plant. She's gonna shoot me. But what is this? This is black
Climber beans.
Black coat climber beans. And then she's got one little stray tomato plant that's off by itself, but it's doing good. It's got some really good blooms on it. So that's our progress report. One more thing to show you, herbs are doing good, is rabbits. When you're gonna breed your rabbits, always give them some roses. It makes it more romantic and they have more pups that way. See this one, she's in her box. She's already had the soft music and she's got her roses, and now she's getting ready to have some pups. So we want to thank you again for coming out and being with us here at Whimsical Farm. Went over a lot of topics today, covered a lot of information, but we want to thank you for visiting with us and ask that you please hit that subscribe button to help us grow our channel. And we want to provide more good information to you. And any comments that you might have to make on the grapes, that'd be helpful to us. We don't know it all. We are still learning. So just let us know if you know anything what might be causing those grapes to wilt like that. So thanks again for listening. Please hit the subscribe and like button. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.